Good. Okay, welcome everybody to the Delegate Office Hours here. Thank you all for joining us. We've got quite a crowd here today. And so let me go ahead and finish admitting a lot of folks here. And so yeah, my name Thomas Flood with GovComms. Again, thank you for joining us today. The Delegate Office Hours, we were going to be focusing on the project based budgeting. Thank you for Juan and SES for joining us here today to talk about that. We put a poll out early in the week, and it looks like we've got this great topic to discuss. I know that we're also going to be discussing this on our GNR call after this. But that's what we're going to be focused on here today. And during the call, I certainly want to make sure that we have good engagement. Please use your chat function feature so that and your raised hand feature as well, so that we can get everyone involved if you have any questions along the way. With that said, I'd like to hand this over to Juan, and Juan is going to talk to us about project-based budget reallocation. We got his slides up, hope everybody can see them, and I will let Juan go ahead and take it away. But before that, let me just let me also add too that we want to be mindful of time, and so we've got the GNR call at the top of the hour, and so we'll get going here. So Juan, thank you for joining us, if you will.
Thank you, Thomas. Yes, as Thomas was mentioning, my name is Juan. I'm the facilitator of the SES core unit, Sustainable Ecosystem Scaling, and our mission is to help Maker function better. So one of the things that we noticed lately is that the conversations are very much around the people instead of the projects or the things. So we came up. So this is a collaboration of a lot of people, but we came up with the project-based budgeting to help guide these conversations and to give some voice back to the MKR holders. So I'll just go quickly through the slides. Let me know if there's any questions or something's not clear, and we can hopefully clarify that. But basically, what MKR holders want is value, right? So ideally, that's what the governance should produce. So it's a vote towards the creation of value. And we have always the three legs. So the first one is capital, the second one is workforce, and the third one is work. On the capital side, we have the pay for value, not for the workforce. So potentially Maker does not care who's doing or who's producing the value. It's more like about getting it. And the second thing on the capital side is understanding the true costs of maintaining and improving the protocol. On the workforce side, Maker does care though about getting the best teams to delivering the high quality. So attracting good developers should be important as well. And also enabling this top talent to contribute immediately, meaning that they are able to come and start working on something instead of dealing with a lot of bureaucracy, focusing on work. And on the work side, we already saw this with Rune's proposal, with Hase's proposal. There's this will to work towards less complexity, get better measurement. So the KPIs initiative from Strategic Finance came up, and take steps towards a future-proof solution. So in this case, we're thinking about how can we prepare also to be endgame compatible if that was what the MKR holders want. So with that in mind, there's this important question that we cannot answer as of today, which is how much is Maker spending on the protocol and how much is it spending on the DAO? And this is extremely important because one thing is directly producing value and making the protocol better with features, with integrations, with the UIs, with a lot of different things. And the other one is like, how much are we spending in running the DAO? So if we spend too much on the second one, we are just creating a lot of middle managers and bureaucracy. So we need to make sure that that these people that are in the DAO are supporting the protocol and getting value there. So that's a very important question that we should always keep in mind. And with that said, how do we identify the work, and how do MakerDAO is able to fund the work? So first of all, identifying it and then funding it, that's quite important. So if we were to imagine this, or to explain how Maker works to someone that has no clue, this is probably what they would imagine. It's like, okay, so the Maker holders have some kind of vision, potentially competing visions. Let's not get into that, at least not yet. And they will be directing the work, right? So the MKR holders, or the delegates in this case, they will be the ones that are directing the work, potentially through projects or through any type of way of deciding which work should be funded, and that work should produce the value. So this is a bit what the dream is, or what maybe it should be. And what we find nowadays is that the tools available to the MKR holders to control the work or the value being produced are four. Well, it's actually two. One of them is the MIP set, MIP 39, 40, and 41. And I have a huge responsibility there. And the other one is a MIP 55, which was the special purpose fund. So the first one is really about approving so onboarding or offboarding core units with some kind of a statement or a vision. And this potentially has a budget allocated to it with a facilitator. So what we're saying is a core unit comes up with a dream. They want money. They want to build value, and we say yes. We should give them the budget or not, based on if we like or not the mandate, and if we like the people behind that. And the other one is the special purpose fund, which is largely being unused. So there's another topic to consider there. But what this situation creates, that the workforce is between the MKR holders and the work, is that the core unit works almost as a black box. So it has full control over the work being done, including prioritization, features, maintenance, keeping the lights on. So everything that's being done goes through a core unit, and the core unit is the one that's deciding what should be done or not. So if some core unit, for example, is doing some critical work, even if that's 5% or a very small percentage, and the rest of the time they want to do whatever they want, MKR holders today, they have no tools to actually direct them towards what they should be working on. So you get these weird things and conversation where on the one hand you have people being frustrated because they don't get enough say in the direction, and on the other hand you have core units that are looking for this type of direction and cannot really find it. We can speak about the MIP 13, which is the declaration of intent, but this doesn't not truly work as it works today. It's more like, yeah, should Maker work on this? Yes, no. Should it be a priority? Yes, no. But it's never clear how the implementation would work. So that's not really a tool for MKR holders to have a say on this. And with this black box or core unit in the middle, we get two types of markets with different conversations where the value is not really measured. So in the bull market example, if the MKR holders want to fund some cool new project because they think that it might bring value, the way it works is that we find another core unit to do that. So there have been in the past some delegates, and I'm potentially thinking about Ultra Shupi as one of them, but several have brought it up. Should we review what the current teams are doing? And usually the comment is like, man, this is a growth market. We should be thinking about growing and not cutting costs. So again, the conversation is not about measuring the value or how things are being done, but instead of should we grow or not, which is not exactly what measuring the value is about. So this is the bull market example, right? It's like, oh, just fund more core units. Let's throw money at the problem, and hopefully something will stick and something will work. And then nearly, well, I don't know how many months ago now, but the market shifted, revenues went down, And this is a bit what happened. It's like we should cut all the budgets. Let's do it now. We're going bankrupt. This is the worst thing in the world. How do we do it? And if a core unit comes and say, "Hey, we have this really cool project. We think that it brings a lot of value to Maker," the answer is like, "No, right now it's not the time. We want to cut budgets. The uncertainty is hurting the workforce. What's going to happen? We need to break even." So there's all these conversations that are really happening, and again, the MKR holders have no way of directing the work. It's more like more workforce or less workforce, and they potentially do almost what they want. So the current conversation, as I was mentioning, it's a bit like this. It's MKR holders being frustrated that value is not being produced, and on the other hand, you have core units being like, well, we don't have a clear vision. We don't even know what you want. We've been mandated with our MIP 39. We said we were going to work on this. We're working on this. So what's your problem? So yeah, what we're proposing, and a bit where we believe that this should shift the conversation, is to actually have projects. So the way it would work, we'll speak during the implementation, but the vision should actually direct projects that are proposed by the core units, and any core unit could come and propose a thing. And if there is a core unit that does not want to contribute on the project, whoever's leading that project would be able to go outside and fund or look for the expertise needed to deliver that. So if, for example, someone wants to build a dashboard and the MKR holders think that dashboard is very important, this project would be voted higher, so it would go higher in the list. And if a core unit, let's say they want to work with data insights core unit, and data insight does not work to work on that because they feel that it's not a priority for them, this the project manager from this project could be like, okay, I'm going to go to, I don't know, some external party, and I'm going to make them provide the data, and I'm going to deliver the project. So what we'll end up with is actually the MKR holders funding the value through a much more direct relationship than funding the workshop. I don't know if there are any questions until now, or we should move into the implementation and next steps, but that's potentially where a lot of things come much clearer.
Yeah, thank you. Juan, so far, is there any questions from the delegates? Wanted to see if they had anything for Juan on what we have so far.
So Du is asking, is this more micromanagement? I don't know, Du, if you want to hop in the mic to add more color to that question, or we should, or I can try to answer. But I would argue almost the opposite. I would argue that when you have this structure, a lot feels like micromanagement because the core units came with a mission and vision statement, and now you want them to work on a project because you think that creates value for Maker. So the mechanisms that MKR holders have are actually these micromanagement conversations where it's like you do this or you're offboarded, pretty much. And we can discuss about that later, but when you try to give direction to a core unit, it's a pretty much all or nothing deal. Same thing when a core unit proposes something, and we saw this in the past where a core unit wanted to grow. Eventually, we ended up splitting the budgets into business as usual and growth. I don't know if those were the exact names, so bear with me, but the conversations are much more all or nothing conversations, instead of saying, okay, this is what we want, these are the priorities, this is the budget that we have that might change from time to time. So I would argue that this is actually less of micromanagement because the direction it's clear. So what the MKR holders want built is absolutely clear in a ranked list, instead of having to go core unit by core unit. Why is this not getting done? Oh, because it's blocked by this other core unit. So these are things that would not happen, or that we believe would happen less, at least in this scenario. I don't know, Retro, if you wanted to add something to that.
The theory here is that there's frameworks improvements as well as tool improvements. So I believe what Do is hinting at is that there may be more ability or opportunities to impact the workforce. And it's a little bit by design, but we believe that the framework presented here is robust enough that the micromanagement aspects of the opportunity to manage the workforce would be more impactful and result in less of the micromanagement that we're seeing today.
Yeah. So if there are caps in the number of projects evaluated, okay, so let's jump into the implementations, because I think that a lot of these questions will see us. We're supposed to be decentralized and independent. In reality, we're all dependent upon each other. The guiding MIPS for independence. In order for this to work, MIP 3940 need to be modified. Yeah, absolutely. They would need to be modified, Robert. So let's go to implementation and potential next steps. So this is a bit how it would work. So right now, core units should projectify, I don't even know if that's a word, their activities. So it for most of core units, I think this would be a fairly easy task. So it's pretty much saying, okay, this is the time we're spending on, this is roughly how much these resources cost. So this is pretty much how much the project costs right now. So it would be a good exercise to do regardless. I think that core units should do it internally, but also once you do this, you can actually see how much each thing costs, and you can potentially discover that some projects are much more expensive than we believe, and maybe we should not be working on them, or yeah, we should, because MKR holders really want them. So the step one would be projectifying all the activities that we're doing, and in these activities, if there's an activity, as Robert were mentioning, that there's dependencies and it should be worked on by several core units, then you can include it here. And what you need is not really I need Robert's core unit, for example, to do this specific work. You just need the specific work and a market price to be able to projectify something. If Robert doesn't want to collaborate with you because he doesn't like you, for example, then that's a different conversation, and you should not block the whole thing, or Robert should not be able to block the whole work being done if he doesn't want to work on it. So this would be completely voluntary, and core units are more than encouraged to actually collaborate with each other. But it's up to the core units to collaborate or not with each other. It wouldn't be forced, a bit like it's happening today by the MKR holders, where they need to say, hey, core unit X, we actually need you to review this or to produce the assessment on this. So it would be more open in that sense. So that would be the step 0 a bit. Then the step 1 would be defining the project. I already saw an initiative by, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Adrian or maybe it was Lit that posted something regarding defining the budget and what do MKR holders believe that the budgets should be. So right now there's one budget that was proposed. What we were thinking of is that we could have different types of budgets with different types of permissions. So a budget could be absolute, for example, for protocol operations or keeping the lights on, we would need this amount of DAI. Or it could also be a percentage of revenues or a percentage of the surplus buffer, or having another buffer. So there's a lot of things we can do to actually be able to play with different things. So you can imagine that something like a marketing moonshot should only be used if we have a lot of DAI available and the market's doing really well, because that experiment is potentially less sure, or there's less success to be taken from. So that's a bit what we envision. And then the other thing is that these budgets could have different permissions. So the example here is that if we define a budget to maintain or to keep the lights on for the protocol, this budget potentially should be able to actually sell MKR or to mint MKR and sell it, because this is extremely important for Maker to keep going. You can see how other types of budgets wouldn't have this many permissions, and it would only give DAI if the protocol was doing well, as mentioned. So,
And sorry, Juan, before we go any further, I wanted to see if any of the delegates or any of the folks here had any questions before we move to the next. I know there was, I just want to mention in the chat, I think Adrian says, can definitely see how an overall budget cap can cater to either a workforce or project view.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know if you want to comment on that.
No, I think Adrian is totally right. I think that we do need to define budgets regardless of which approach we're taking. So the workforce view might need a budget as well. I actually think it does. So not having a budget is a bit like shooting in the dark. You don't even know what you're dealing with. So I think it's extremely important.
Yeah, Code Knight's got his hand raised. Code Knight, you have the floor.
Yeah, so no, it seems to me from talking to the CUs that they're primarily relying on like full-time workers right now, and it's hard to pin them on budgets because they'll be like, well, we're struggling to attract or retain talent or whatever at this number, but that's not like a hard, what do we need to keep the lights on type thing, because they won't tell you. They'll just be like, well, maybe we can do it at this number, maybe some of our people will quit. So would your like kind of structure be transitioning towards more contract labor, less full-time workers, because we're going off of like projects, right? And when those projects are done, people are just not going to be receiving funds anymore.
Yeah. So no. Yeah. The short answer is no. And the way this would work is that a core unit would. So, for example, I spoke with Peyton the other day, and he said, like, man, I have so many good ideas for doing new stuff, but right now we don't know whether to ask for more of a budget in GovAlpha. We feel that it's a bit tone deaf. So what GovAlpha could do is set up a project saying we want to work on this, and you could, I imagine, I don't know, a team like PE saying like we have these 20 things to work on. Like, what do you want us to work on? So potentially they will start filling the projects until all the projects get filled or resourced, and this would also be a signal like, hey, we need more developers, or we need less, right? But maybe PE actually needs more developers because MKR holders value a lot going into, I don't know, a new blockchain, right? So yeah, Maker should be on Solana. We need Rust developers now. We don't know today that MKR holders have no way of signaling that. So it's more like, oh, maybe we should create a Solana core unit. So again, the conversation today is like, is Solana core unit a good idea or not, compared to it would be good to do research about this and see and scale it. So right now we're going with this core unit approach. It's not only all or nothing. It's like, okay, we need to actually hire people for something that we don't know if it's going to work or not. A project could be research if this is worth it, or how much effort would it be. Or even doing tasks that are maintenance, that should be a project as well. So we like, I don't know, moderating the forum, GovAlpha, again, sorry if I'm picking too much on you. This is a task that it feels that you don't produce a lot of value, more or less, but it's extremely important to keep the DAO running. So it's something that should be as a project there, and it should be reevaluated and saying, okay, how much time are we spending on that? How much resources? And with this way, you can see super transparently, this is the cost of maintaining the forum. Is it too expensive? Maybe. Maybe the forum needs more moderation, so we should increase that budget. So what we're doing with this is making everything very explicit and helping the MKR holders choose what needs to go there and not, instead of discussing, oh, this core unit is not producing enough. It's a bunch of guys, I don't know, there's a lot of examples to draw from if you go to the forum. So yeah, the short answer is we believe that a core unit should be able to produce enough projects to let the MKR holders choose. If your projects are not getting funded, then that should be a good signal that you're not producing the value that the protocol wants at the moment.
So in other
Is it-
words, if you're not,
Awesome.
in other words, if you're not supporting the end game and you're not looking to decentralize DAI beyond what it is today, which obviously needs to get decentralized a hell of a lot more, then you're saying that some of these teams should not be funded, correct?
So this is again, this is compatible with the endgame plan, but it's not mandatory, let's say, for it to be enabled. So if there's the perception that a core unit is not working on valuable things, what happens today is that core unit gets defunded. Maybe a little piece of what they were doing was valuable, but right now it's all or nothing. They lose the whole budget. We saw this in the past. There are a couple of proposals up there to do the same. I don't know if that's the approach that the MKR holders want, because then you need to think, okay, there are all these tasks that were actually useful. Maybe I didn't like 90% or 70% or even 30%, but you need someone to take care of those things. Who's going to take over? Is it this other core unit? Should we then shift the budget? Should we give them more budget? So right now, if there's a project that a core unit is doing, that project would have the budget available and they would be able to fund it. Hopefully that answers the question.
Got it. So assuming the end game goes to a vote somewhere around October, and it does get approved by MKR token owners, what would be the first step to get this off the ground? Obviously, this has to be approved also by MKR token owners. But how do you see this playing into the end game and getting core units to buy into being a part of a MakerDAO? And I think a lot of core units don't understand that MakerDAOs are clusters of core units that might be doing the same thing, right? A good example of that is the events core unit that probably should be working with growth, strategic happiness, that should be working with growth, et cetera. So can you kind of walk us through that, assuming the end game does get approved in the next 2 or 3 months?
Yes. So so a MetaDAO potentially is a group of a lot of, or a MetaDAO, the way we see it is, it's several projects together. So you can see core units A, B, and C collaborating together in these 5 projects to, I don't know, get into the Asian market. So this would be a very good step in the right direction, because it would already get us into the collaboration and making sure that we're working on things that add value, instead of just throwing a bunch of people together that might or might not collaborate and then see what happens. So yeah, a group of core units could work together almost continuously and propose projects together, and then MKR holders would choose what to do or what not to do. But yeah, as next steps, we do have, we want to explore a lot more how the DCVs would work and how they would vote, and how this would actually yield the ranking of the project. So we have it as a to-do list to explain it, make it more clear, and potentially come present in one of the meetings. So let's move forward to rank voting and making sure that the good or the projects that the MKR holders want are prioritized. So in this case, the budget was 500 DAI. There's only one budget for simplicity purposes, and there are these 4 projects that were proposed. Maybe I should have chosen more core units, but right now, core unit X would get 2 projects funded, and then the other 2 projects would not get funded. So I mean, that's pretty much it, right? Like we say we have a certain budget, we have all these projects, we rank vote them based on importance, and then we we get some projects funded. We still need to define things as the timelines, because you do want to be able to predict if you need to lock people or not, if you need to hire more or not. So those are a lot of details that are extremely important and that we need to discuss further. But that's potentially it, how the prioritization process would work, Kan. So yeah, as I was mentioning, things that are still to define, the period, it's quite important to get the good trade-off between flexibility for the MKR holders and stability for core units. So potentially we could do like a 3-month rolling budget. So you would vote for projects. So let's say in the 1st of January, you would know if you have the budget, or if your budget was approved to start in April. So 3 months could work, but then yeah, I think we should potentially have a deeper discussion on how to do that. Then there's reporting, dashboards, and measurements. Again, going back to the KPIs or to the dashboard that the SES is building, it's extremely important that this is very transparent and very easy to navigate for MKR holders and delegates, because this is what's providing the value, and this is how we're measuring the value. We will also need to work on the templates to produce a project. So right now, the closest thing that we have to a project is the SPF, which is the Special Purpose Fund. And today I suggested to Kat to actually add milestones in the fund that she was requesting to make sure that she's achieving or what she wants to achieve, and then we can compare to what the group has achieved or not. Then still to define the bonuses are quite important. So retention, maybe we should have like a retention project and say, if you're a talented maker developer, this is the fund so that you don't leave. Same thing for any type of skills. Same thing for performance. I know that growth is using performance bonuses, so that could be interesting. Then we also started discussing an automation bonus. So if you make something that provides value, if you make a project that was providing value automatic, you could potentially get the equivalent of MKR for, I don't know, the next year or so, because you potentially saved the protocol a lot of money. And then other types of benefits. And finally, any type of governance mechanisms, like should we add any exceptions? Should MKR holders be able to make decisions faster if needed? Let's say we need to work extremely urgently on something like that. So that's a bit the things that we need to touch upon. And the last step, it's a profit, or it's the advantages, which is that the MKR holders would actually choose directly the projects that are forwarding their vision. We would uncover a lot of non-value added. So if a core unit comes up with a lot of projects that do not get funded, this means potentially that the MKR holders were not interested in getting them. Today we are paying for those even if we don't want them. So this would be a great exercise to do. Admin tasks, this was an important topic that came up. There's a lot of admin that we do, and how do we optimize that? Should the DAO have like central services as several companies do? Maybe that's something to explore. And the last good point is that it allows for competition. So as we were mentioning, if there's a project that's covering something and someone believes that they can do a better job, they can always propose it, and then it's up to the MKR holders to decide on how to move forward. So call to actions. Next Tuesday we'll be having our office hours to discuss this more in depth. Any type of feedback or questions or anything, we really appreciate them. We already started getting a lot on the forum post, and it helps us at least map the territory and understand what we don't know, which is a lot. then work with the delegates. I think that this is a great first step. I would love to hear from more of you guys what you think, if this would be useful or not, and potentially get to a closer decision. And as Frank was saying, once we align it more with the endgame plan, we would like to come and present at a DVC meeting to see how this could be a step in that direction. So yeah, I have an actionable summary of how things could start moving forward. We're in the feedback stage at the very beginning. Then potentially a signal request or a MIP 13. This is something that I want to discuss with Go Alpha and the delegates. And then there's a lot of things that we mapped that we would need to do to get this done. So yeah, I don't know if there's any questions. Team Black is saying have a lot of feedback, so that's great.
Yeah, Juan, thank you very much. Well, it was great. Actually, Raphael had his hand raised, so I'm going to give the floor to Raphael.
Yeah, so thanks, Juan. I think there's a lot I love about the proposal. What I think is lacking in the on the slide about what's to do is, I think, thinking about setting priorities needs some deeper thought, and especially like how you arrive at these priorities. Like, how is that voted? How is that then like interfaced with capabilities of that we see on budgets and so on and so forth. So I'd love to have that like added to the list that we think about how to set priorities, which, you know, is like one of my favorite topics.
No, that's super important, and that's we explicitly left it out. We believe that this system is compatible with the current voting system or any change. We started on that end. How does a delegate craft a vision and make it more explicit? And we kind of put that initiative on hold while we were working on this. But yeah, it's super important, both for contribute or for delegates to actually show how what their vision is, and in a more actionable way, right? Because the vision Maker should grow is not very telling. It could mean anything. Maker should go all in on real world finance is something. Maker should only do bonds is something else. So a delegate could actually, by ranking these projects, should actually be quite clear what their vision is, and it would be much better than this core unit, yes or no. That doesn't tell you a lot. It could be that a delegate believes that this is a crucial part for some other master plan, but then if other core unit that was also needed doesn't get allowed, then what's happening? The advantage with projects is that it's very clear. It's like you either the project gets done or doesn't get done because it's fully funded or not. So we believe that this will shift the conversation towards that. And something else that
like you have a much shorter kind of signaling frequency here, and that's what I love.
Absolutely.
Like you constantly get these kind of signals about where the mind space of the DAO is at the moment. So I think this is like one of the really strong points of this proposal.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we explicitly left out, and we didn't want to we didn't want to make the model more complicated to understand, but we will put it on the plan with the DVC. But it's that potentially what we want to do actually is not even ask for projects, but you as a delegate, what you want to say is, this is what I believe Maker should look like, and then the project would be like an answer to this request for proposals. So you're saying, let's build this feature, and then any project could come and be like, okay, I'm going to do a research on the feasibility, or I'm going to actually build it, or I'm going to launch on testnet 6 months from now. So that's something that we believe that would be quite powerful as well.
All right, thank you, Juan. Appreciate that. Still open the floor to anybody, any other questions that delegates. We got some coordinator facilitators here today. I'm going to see if anybody wants to go next. So
Makerman, I don't know if you want to jump on the mic or I can read it out loud, but yeah, MakerMan is commenting on the cadence. Some things can only be cycled so fast when you start a project with a contractor and then decide they are failing to perform. So that's actually super important, and that's why the templates for creating the project will also be very important, because these are the tools that the MKR holders have to judge the performance. Again, as of today, there's absolutely no tool. You might have some kind of a roadmap. After the MIP 40 amendments, the budgets have a more concrete roadmap, but it's not explicitly clear what success is or not. So yeah, we think that the evaluating the performance should be there, even if the project based budgeting doesn't go through. It's the MIP 40 with the roadmap is quite useful, right? I think that the MIP 40 with the amendments is a bit of this idea, but not pushed forward enough. So yeah, and the other thing, still a good idea, even if more details need to be done. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that the details will be the hard part, and it will be very important to get those right. But we need to agree that this is a good idea before building a huge machinery. So yeah, I appreciate the comments.
Yeah, and real quickly to build on Juan's point there too, I think a clear example of how that'll manifest in the DAO is how budgets are implemented today in the core unit model. Some use an auditor wallet, some go direct to an operational wallet, some have different functions of their core unit defined into separate wallets. We imagine that we'll see similar best practices that are created for the various project roles that will be required, like maintenance being separated from development, being separated from more marketing experiments. And each of those will somewhat organically and more so intentionally be driven to a best practice that could potentially be mythified to set in stone that this is how the DAO is going to run experiments, or it could be more loose to account for the different things that MakerMan was also bringing up about how some teams may be failing more initially on and protecting against over investing in an immature workforce, but still wanting to give people a chance. What we believe is that this lowers the barrier and right sizes the budget allocations to the proper teams.
Yeah, Adrian, I don't know if you want to hop on the mic. I think it's a good point, and you'll probably express it better than myself when you're talking about the principal agent tension.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just meant, so the principal in some sense is like the maker token holders. The agents in today's view are the facilitators, I suppose, and then eventually the collaborators. And the tension is that the core units necessarily have more information than the token holders when it comes to making day-to-day decisions. So this is what usually tends to create over time a misalignment of incentives between the principal and the agent, which creates the tension. So I guess that's what I was referring to. I don't know if that clearly answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if I could
another
comment
question.
on that.
Oh,
Sorry,
go ahead, Frank.
Juan, don't mean to cut you off. If I could comment on that, I think from a DAO perspective, right? And I think sometimes we tend to forget that this is a DAO. This is a decentralized autonomous organization, right? Run by folks that could be living in Nairobi, Kenya, for all I know. So yeah, sure. Delegates, community members, MKR token holders, as Hasu has said, don't have time to be following the day-to-day operations. But this is a DAO, and we're trying to build something different here. So I think you got to give the benefit of the doubt to the folks who do the grind, who are here every single day, trying to learn. And even if there's like a anon governance mining some of the source cred in the forum, you kind of got to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Because the only way we're going to build a DAO, a true decentralized autonomous organization, is if there is no black box. And that's why I'm a big proponent of the end game, right? Because we're trying to somehow, some way, solve the riddle of not having a black box where, you know, delegate A and delegate C and D have no idea what core unit ABC is doing. So that's the point I was trying to make with the example of agents. You know, it's very hard, man, to build a DAO. I totally get your point of view, but I think some of us tend to forget that this is a DAO. It's a DAO. Let's just remember that we're in a DAO. You're free to go about wherever you want in the world and be a part of this DAO. Yeah.
But then I think, so whether it comes this is just my view, whether it comes to the end game or the core units or the projects or what have you, we're not going to invent a new type of interaction between humans. Like, to an extent, a lot of these things have been tried before. DAOs are relatively new, but then there are examples of organizations in the past that have been more or less decentralized. I don't know, kibbutzes is one example, and they can work. It's just a matter of, and I'm not trying to be like a concern troll or anything here, because this principal agent problem exists everywhere. I think it's just a matter of identifying how to best align the incentives so that the token holders are satisfied. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, on the other hand, yeah, I guess if the token holders are happy absolving themselves of this tension, then that removes the tension, I guess. But I don't get the impression that that's the case today.
I mean,
And
I think
it's
it's
just
example.
and I think it's just a matter of finding the right, like, you know, ownership and accountability. It's not a case of like not trusting. I think it's just a matter of like finding the right incentives.
I'll give you a quick example because I know MakerMan has his hand
Yep.
up, but there is an individual. I won't say whether they're core unit member or they're an MKR token owner or just a community member, but they're like attending every single call, every single office hours, and they pointed something out to me I'll never forget, which is if I worked at a company and I was working for some department, all I would care about is my coworkers and my boss. I wouldn't care what ABC core unit or CDF core unit is doing or what the value of DAI or Maker is or DAI is pegged. So this is a different realm that we're trying to build here. And I think all of us just need to kind of, you know, give it a shot. Yeah, maybe it's been done before. I don't know if it has. You say it has, but let's give it a try, man, before we just throw up the white flag and go back to centralization.
Yeah, but I'm not saying go back to centralization at all. I think we're saying the same thing.
All right, I want to thank you guys. I want to take it over to MakerMan. You had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Juan, do you think this is just going to create more work for CUs overall, right? Do you think this imposes a burden? That's my first question. Second question is kind of a double. So there's really three. How are you going to handle a test case here? And what sort of performance metric are you going to use to determine whether it's better or worse, right? You know, Frank's comments kind of apply to some extent, but that's the real issue. And I harp on this all the time is you're going to do something different. How do you know it's better? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, MakerMan. So the first question is a bit, so is there more overhead for core units? Maybe, I hope not. So the way SES works is with OKRs. So we have something between like 3 and 5 objectives every quarter, and we review and we know that that's what we need to deliver. So we do the breakdown of the work, and then we take it from there. So for us, it's relatively easy to say we are working on this, and then it's a matter of saying, okay, how much time we consider that we're working on each project, each contributor, and then yeah, you potentially have other types of activities that you're doing that are not being represented. So there will be for sure some work to go there. And then if you want to come up with more projects, going back to the GovAlpha example, so a GovAlpha example is Peyton was saying, like, I have all these ideas that potentially might get funded by the MKR holder. So how do I manage that? So it's up to him to actually come up with these ideas and make sure that he kind of tries to make them into a project. I don't think that it's easy. I think that it's a skill that we will need to learn and to improve with time. Maybe it will be painful in the beginning to change, but I think that the rewards outweigh the struggle, right? And again, I think that if we manage to provide enough templates and enough guidance, enough examples, potentially helping them in the beginning, it will be better in the long term, and it won't be that hard. So how do we know that it's better? That's tough, right? So should we switch the whole thing and then be like, oops, let's roll back? I don't know if there's a way of making it more. Okay, we will start with I don't know, half the core units. I don't know, maybe take volunteers, or the MKR holders can actually choose them and be like, we want these core units to explicitly say what they're working on. I don't know. It's that's a hard one. We were actually first getting feedback to make sure that we develop the implementation plan more in depth, instead of just creating this super plan that gets dead on arrival. So this is a bit what we're trying to do, is get feedback now to see if it is worth pushing, or if you say, nah, thank you, SES, go work on something else, and that's totally fair too.
All right, thank you. We just want to be mindful of time. I know we've got a GNR call here at the top of the hour. We've got a few minutes left. I got Tim has got his hand raised, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right. Well, I was just going to take the hand down because we need time for a break. But I'll just say that this is really exciting. I think that there's a lot of potential here that is will help the DAO, I think, in a lot of different ways. A lot of our sort of current issues that we sort of see. There are also a lot of concerns I sort of have, and I think so do some of the other delegates who brought them up on the chat. So it's good to remind ourselves that we're at the beginning stages of evaluating this. And so I'm hoping to bring some feedback to the proposal, but just to put it on voice. I think what we will realistically see is we're going to need a cap on the projects. We're going to need an overall budget allocation in general. And then most likely we're going to have to deal with expertise issues. So I look forward to discussing those on other calls, because now is definitely not the time to pop that genie out of the bottle. But like I said, I think the opportunity for collaboration and transparency increases as long as we set really great guideposts. And I think we can do that in this framework more so than core unit budgets, which is why I find it exciting. So I yield.
Yeah, I fully agree. And just to be clear of the way we work, we love these challenges, Makerman, so keep them coming. What we do is we just write them down and we park them until we actually find a way of putting it into the framework. And then we know that that's something that we're not forgetting. So I had this conversation with Rune a couple days ago, maybe a week ago, but I showed him this and he's like, yeah, but you do need to retain people. So it's like, okay, maybe a project with retainer would work. So that's I think that the feedback, even if it sounds bad, it actually makes the framework or the proposal stronger. So we really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Really appreciate all the great feedback. Thank you to SES for the presentation today. I think you guys will also be on the GNR call as well. Just a reminder, I think we put the link out where we can continue this discussion out on the forum. I think Retro and Juan also put their Discord handle information out there so that you can reach out to them. Again, thank you all for joining us today. This is recorded and should be out tomorrow. And again, we will also have this posted probably by tomorrow on the forum. And really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you all very soon. Thank you.